volunteers that are going to go. In this case, we had 11 warriors. I lost 2 warriors the first day. They got sick.
It wasn't due to partying.
No, I believe something 8 or whatever, but you get your group together, and then we made our appointments before we left. And then the most effect that you can have on a legislator is to have someone from his voting district, his or her voting district there. That's the first thing they ask is who's from my voting district. And that person we identified, and we tried to get at least one person that was in their voting district in every one of the meetings and shuffle them around, get the time so that you could get from one to the other. The Senate building is in Dirksen, which is on one side of the Capitol, and the representative buildings are in Rayburn, Cannon, and Longworth, which are completely on the other side. So it's trying to schedule them so that you can, if someone is going to see a senator and then going to see a congressman, there's a time frame to get to the other side of the buildings. But the first person we saw on Tuesday, we saw all of our representatives Tuesday afternoon, with the exception of one, and we saw that person on Wednesday. Senator Corker was the first, and then Congressman Fleshman, who's from upper East Tennessee. Congressman John Duncan, who's from East Tennessee. Diane Black, of course, from Nashville. Senator Alexander was at 2 o'clock, and then we had Congressman Phil Rowe, who is a pediatrician from Johnson City. Then Representative Marsha Blackburn was next, and then Representative Stephen Fincher, and the second day was Representative Deschanel. So those were the orders that we teamed up, and anybody that didn't have, an appointment, they would jump into a group with another. We had at least 3 people at every meeting. I think the largest meeting was Senator Corker, and I'll let Jim talk about that.
My youngest son played baseball growing up, and he loved it. And one year they had the top team in the league down there. And his coach is still talking about it. In fact, if you get him Ricky off on that subject, he'll say, "That's the easiest job I ever had, because the only thing I ever had to say to the team, all right, let's play." And that's literally been my job this year. And I'm going to tell you, it's fun and exciting, and we've accomplished a lot of things. But because of our team, it's been real easy. And it's an example of what happens when a team works together. We have thought about and talked about a state PAC for a number of years. All of a sudden, this year, it started falling together with Chuck's help and Dave Ramel's help. And I'll have to say, Dave has been our lobbyist for a number of years. But I think he's done a better job this year than he's ever done before, because we're reacting with him, we're talking with him, we're getting him to do things. And this state PAC, he did all the legal work for us at no charge. Now, he gets paid well from the other side, but he offered this, and we accepted. Great team. You got these 2 guys over here, not only on the local level, but on the state level, to national or to Capitol Conference. A couple of days ago, I got a note from Dave Ramel that we needed to do something. So I shot an email to Todd. Todd said, "Well, I did that last month." So that's what kind of team that we've got working, and it's great. And thank y'all very much. I don't remember exactly how many years I've been going to Capitol Conference. The interesting thing of it is I can go on their website, and they've got a recording of every time I've been up there. So they tell me how many times that I've been and what years. And it's the same with you guys, if you ever want to know that kind of information. The first time that I went to Capitol Conference, I think it was 2 or 3, maybe 4 of us. This year there was 11 up there. And we're still one of the smallest states that has attendance to the Capitol Conference. Other states our size and smaller will have more people. And I think half the brokers from North Carolina wind up coming up there every year. They're very active. The Incidentally, Region 5 meeting is in Charlotte, North Carolina this time, and it's in March 17th.
Yeah, right around St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, March 17th and 18th, I think. So, if you would like to get engaged with that, there's an opportunity for any of us to go over there, and it's always a good meeting. Back to the meetings on the Hill. And I hear people, and those of y'all that know my right arm, Teresa used to say this, but I don't want to get involved in politics. It won't make any difference what I've got to say kind of stuff. Well, God bless her. We keep talking with her, and now she's engaged and realizes what difference we can make. These people are human that are on the Hill, that represent us nationally, and represent us on the state level, and represent us on the local level for that matter. They're human. They need direction. They've gone up there to do a good job. Some of them are into it for the glory and the money, but most of them are not. They're really up there wanting to help and wanting to do things. Our meeting with Corker, and I invite and encourage everybody to go to Capital Conference. Once you go, you'll go back. That's how exciting it can be. But one of the things we always try to get to see the members of Congress, but that's not always imperative if we do that, because all of those people that are their assistants, as is said, they whisper in their ear right before they vote. So we need to work those people, and we do on a great basis. I tell you what you'll find out, there's nobody over 30, 35 years old up there that are these assistants. And they're all young people, they're all sharp as tacks. They're political science majors, or either finished college and doing a couple of years up there, a few years up there, or they're in college and then go up there to do an internship or an assistant. So it's exciting to see these young people be so engaged. I really think that our meeting with Corker, we got a couple of light bulbs that come on in his head. Corker is basically on our side of the fence, but he's got a couple of quirks about his thinking and things. So I really think that our conversations with him somewhat made a difference there. Again, Chuck told y'all how we had these meetings set up. It could not have worked any better. And again, a lot of it, the credit to that is due to the people that were going, get in touch with people, and Chuck setting it up. On the Duncan situation, I don't know exactly what you want me to talk about.
Well, just like a first-time person that went up there, and you don't have to be an expert. You know your business, you know your clients, and that's what you need to know, and it can make a difference.
Yeah. Lisa Helton from the Knoxville chapter, first time ever she's gone, and we almost scared her off because we told her that she had to chair the meeting with Duncan. And her first words to me was, "I don't think I can do it. I'm scared of it. I don't know it. I don't think I can do it." I said, "Well, don't worry about it. There'll be somebody to go along with you." Well, Richard and I went, and we get into his office. Incidentally, they kind of have a rule that they need to have two constituents there to have a meeting with the congressman. But Lisa did her selling ability, and she got us in just with one constituent, her. Well, Richard and I went with her, and she's sitting in the middle. And Richard and I both are ready to take over the conversation because we know she's going to be shaking in her shoes and not be able to say anything. Well, we said hello, and I took a deep breath to say something, and Lisa started and did a fantastic job. So I guess I may have embarrassed her a little bit. When we finished, I said, "Congressman Duncan, we came along as her support. Do you think she needed it?" He said, "No, she didn't need anybody's support." So I think Lisa is now hooked on it. My father always said, "You got a sure bet, bet a Coca-Cola on it." I'll bet a Coca-Cola. Lisa Helton's going to be up there next year.
Right. And the thing that came out of that visit is we just talked about the effect of healthcare reform on our clients and the services that we provide to our clients, and it's not just shopping for insurance, and the importance of removing agents' compensation from the medical loss ratio, because it is something that is just historically
grapevine, nothing set in stone, of course, but there's a lot of talk, people that have seen mock trials with the actual attorneys that are gonna be arguing before the Supreme Court, that, there's a lot of talk they feel a very good chance that the mandate is gonna be struck down. Again, that's speculation, but just from things that insiders, Washington insiders have seen, that we have a good chance of that being struck down, which of course would kill the pre-existing condition limitation, requirement as well. So we just wanted to share that with you from a lot of the talk we heard from different insiders, different organizations, different policy, makers.
Great.
So from the next slide.
Yeah, so 1206 is the act that the House resolution that Nahu wrote on our behalf, and we have the Representative Rogers from Michigan that introduced the legislation. There were,
Actually, Richard, excuse me, it was introduced last year
Right.
when we were up there.
right,
And then this year, the Senate bill introduced while we were up there.
right. So you have currently, and I don't know how recent this is, I'm sure it's probably as of yesterday because Brent's so good at that. When we were up there, it was 151 co-sponsors. It's now up to 166, just based on the native folks being up on
We
the
were
hill.
responsible for 4 bills.
Excuse me?
We were responsible for 4
Right.
of that.
Thank you. Yeah, Representative Blackburn and Fleischer, whatever his name is,
And Rowe.
and Rowe were the already 3 on it, and then we picked up 4 more. So it's gaining traction. That was another thing that kind of came into play, and I can't remember if I said this already or not, is that really partisanship is alive and well in Washington, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, the less Washington does, the more maybe it lets the states maneuver and do some things. But everybody kind of agreed that nobody wants to do anything because the other side will get credit for it. So, but one thing about this bill is the fact that it's bipartisan. Okay, so you've got people on both sides in the right committees and positions that are signing on to this bill, and so I think those are the type of things that could get passed this year. So that gaining traction among House members. The week that we were up there, they announced that Senator Landrieu and Ben Nelson and Johnny Isaacson, there's going to be another Republican that I haven't heard
They still haven't announced.
announced who that's going to be yet. They said it was a she, so that slipped out by accident. So you could probably say it's probably like Kay Bailey Hutchison or something like that. But that it's going to be a co-sponsor, so the legislation hasn't dropped, but we did talk to Alexander's and Corker's offices about signing on as co-sponsors of it.
And you'll notice that 2 of those are Democrats.
Right. So again, it's that bipartisan. Everybody kind of said that, by saying that it's partisan, the only things that are going to get done this year is bipartisan. Now, the fact that the Senate hasn't passed the budget in 1,000 days, it's been more than that now. Who knows what can get done in there? But basically,
What I would add to this, that second bullet point, if you'll read the 3, it kind of tells what's really different from the House bill. But once I'm not ready to sign on to anything until I know exactly what's in it, especially depending on who is actually authoring the bill. But if it does benefit us, we ask you to please look at it, and then we do need to call Alexander and Corker, and everybody needs to pound them with information on this and say we need their support. Assuming once we see everything that's in it. But Nahu is helping with this bill. They've got the ear of these senators, so we're hoping it's going to be beneficial to us. But be on the lookout for that so you can notify your senators.
Both senators we talked to did make the statement that they didn't think anything could be done this year because it's election. So everybody's just sitting there.
But part of the process is getting it out there. Yeah.
and if it's going to get done, it's going to have to be a bipartisan. I'm sure as soon as this bill drops, we'll probably get an operation shout from Nahu. They're so good about doing that. Operation shout is the little note about using that tool to contact your senator in this case. And it even writes the email for you. You can add your comments to it. Usually it's better to do a little preamble if you're going to use the pre-completed one, just so that it looks like it's personalized and that type of thing. But that I would encourage you to use. It's real easy and simple. Okay, so the other thing that Speaker Bonner mentioned was that the class act
interesting information, a little more clarification on W-2 reporting. I found some of this interesting, some of it we kind of knew, but I guess the second one on the list there, we'll leave it up there for you to read all these, but W-2 reporting for hospital or fixed indemnity plans. Anyone here that's, in that market strong, if an employer pays any portion of the premium or if it's on a pre-tax basis, that will be, you will need to report that on W-2. So it's something I found interesting. Dental and vision only if they're part of the medical plan. If they're standalone, you won't have to worry with those. And then, of course, anyone over 250 in 2011 is exempt this year.
And I know we have some carrier reps in here, and I don't know if anybody else is. I've talked to at least one, but I'm kind of wondering if the carriers would not have the ability, or not would not, but they do have the ability, would they be willing to provide some information to the employers to help them give this W-2 information, because based on the billing, you would have the information as to who was covered and for how many months they were covered during the year and the amount of premiums paid on behalf of that person. So we're hoping, at least some of the employers I've talked to are hoping that their insurance carriers would be willing to provide some of that information to their policyholders.
And I want to thank Pat for helping us get all this together on short notice. Richard can give him credit.
Okay, thanks. I figured it was. She does a lot of things behind the scenes, and I don't mean just for you. She's one of those stalwarts that, this association couldn't run without people like that. So, and we need more people involved. I mean, that's what makes it better. Okay, we'll cover that in a second. Now, back to the visits a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about our visit with Representative Blackburn. Chuck, Terry, and Brent were in that meeting along with me. We were taken out of Marcia Blackburn's office and taken into a side office I guess she uses for conferences or whatever. She came in, we met with her about 30 minutes, very engaging person, very engaged in our issues, has very much been a supporter of our issues on the Hill. She was getting ready to do a response because they get the President's State of the Union address. It was going to be that night, but they get it that morning, and they had just come back from a retreat. Anyway, the local Nashville stations wanted to get her comments that they could tape then about the State of the Union. Anyway, it was just kind of interesting. You could see some of the rooms set up with lights and things that the local media was using to get those kind of pieces of information. But Keith stuttered, and Keith is Marcia's legislative director, and Marcia Blackburn met with us. And she really, and I think in talking for the House leadership, I get the feeling that they're ready to repeal and replace, Accountable Care Act, or PACA, whichever term you want to use, the healthcare reform, based on, they're going to drop some legislation as soon as the Supreme Court rules, so even though they don't have the votes in the Senate, they're going to drop something called H.R. 371. Has anybody in here heard of that? H.R. 371. The title is the Patient and Protection Affordability Care Act to amend the Public Health Services Act to provide for cooperative governing of individual health insurance coverage offered in interstate commerce. Okay, so I don't know if we want to support this or not, and I didn't print enough of these for everybody, but here's some stuff that Studdard sent me, the legislative aid. One, it was responding to the Blue perspective on this act, so apparently Blue Cross Association raised some questions about this legislation, and then kind of a little summary on this act. I'm going to put them up here if you want to grab one at the end. If not, we'll try and put a copy of all that in the bill on the website. But basically what this is set up to do, and if you read between the lines of what Bonnier said, even what Sebelius said, and some other things that Larson said that weren't up there, part of, I think, the fear about this case before the Supreme Court is the usurping of the state's authorities. Okay? And so I think, regardless of which side wins in this whole thing, that there's going to be more responsibility pushed back to the states. And something else that was an interesting panel that spoke, and sorry to get kind of, but there was a group of, we have a NAHU state legislator from Michigan that was on a panel. We had a representative that's in our business, more of a financial planner, Chris Wren from Alabama, and then we had a physician from the Department of Insurance from the state of Maryland, and then another lady that did the chairing of this panel, and they talked about the effect of healthcare reform on the states. And both of the legislators, and especially Chris Wren, who is head of the Association for State Legislators, I may have the name wrong, but basically, like we have NAHU, the state legislators have a national association, and he was elected as president of that. And this guy was fired up. He was really ticked off that the federal government had the ability, through Medicare and Medicaid, to mandate, not Medicare as much, but Medicaid, 30% to 40% of their budget based on federal mandates, that the states had no control over that. And so even, from that perspective, you have these states that are concerned about their budgets and the mandates coming down from the federal level and wanting more control over their own destiny. So I think that this type of legislation that they're talking about to repeal healthcare reform is basically allowing a carrier, let's say it could be Blue Cross of Alabama, to sell across state lines. Now, some of the Q&As in here say that it still allows for the state to govern these entities, that they still have to file to be approval, but that they aren't going to have to offer the state mandated benefits. Now, whether we agree that that's a solution or not, I think what we're seeing, in my opinion, is a movement towards allowing some things to be done either regionally or on a state-by-state basis with healthcare reform. So there's the reason that we need to have a strong influence in the state legislature as well as the federal legislature going forward, just to determine what's going to happen with our business. But I encourage you to read this HR 371. I don't know where we are on it. Marshall Blackburn's office kind of asked us to look at it and see if we could support it, said it a little bit stronger than that. But that's what they're getting ready to do. They just come back from a retreat on their committee to drop that bill. But so that she's right in our, understands our issues, is big on small business, very favorable. Any other visits you guys want to talk about or anything you want to add?
No, I think all the visits we had were good visits. And I will relate this a little bit to those of you who are real sharp who are going to help us on the day of the Hill. What they really want to hear, what excites them the most, is personal stories. They want to know what's happening to their clients, and what's happening to your business. And when you talk to your legislators in that term, they get really involved. Because it's more than just you wanting something. It's what's going on back home, what's going on with the people you represent. So I want to keep that in mind when we do Day on the Hill. Everybody's got a story, or you wouldn't be in this business very long. So that helps tremendously, and it really helped with Senator Corcoran, because he asked us specifically for things like that he would ask us questions. In fact, he was one of the few that was constantly asking us questions about different.
How does this impact my business? He mentioned that he had talked to his broker about it, who happens to be Russ Blakely down in Chattanooga. And so he had already talked to his broker about it, okay? Well, we need to be that person that our representative or our state senator or state representative or the governor or whoever contacts with questions about health care and how it's going to affect our clients. Because, he had obviously already talked to him, and then he was talking to us and getting our feedback and trying to understand the impact of this on himself as a business owner. And so that's the type of thing that you want to develop, is to be the go-to person for this information. And by having those real-life stories of what your small business client has had to do because they no longer offer health insurance, they're just trying to stay in business, or they're cutting back or doing that, and those are the type of things that are going to have an impact and can make a difference in helping put the reality of what we're asking into play, and why what we're asking for them to do and support is so important. So, any questions or comments? The big thing that I come out of it with is, now more than ever, and thankfully the leadership that we have at the state, is that we are poised to even be of influence at a time when I think the states are going to have a lot more say in what they can do, believe it or not. I mean, I just get a feeling that what we have on the table may be gone, or it may look a lot different than what it is right now. And I think we need that ability to help shape that for our clients and for our business. it's not just that one day a year that they see us up there. And so, let us know if you want to be involved with something like that as well. Questions, comments?
Thank y'all very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please don't forget next month's meeting.
Yeah.
Will be a lunch meeting,
11:30.
not breakfast, lunch.
Marilyn, right here, we're just gonna open this up.
Well, open this up and then hold it.
We know what's on the menu. Famous days, all right. No worries.
Again, HR 371 information up here if you want it.
I was thinking, I don't want to push it. Can we turn that off? Oh, yeah. Did you push the red button? That's.